In the quiet corners of a grand billionaire's mansion, where every surface gleamed with wealth and privilege, lived a maid who carried a burden no one could see. To the outside world, she was invisible, just another worker in the background of luxury. But behind her tired eyes was a mother's desperation. Her little daughter, frail and gasping for every breath, needed urgent treatment that she could never afford. Every passing day felt like sand slipping too quickly through her hands. Then came a moment that would change everything. As she polished the marble floors and set tables no one appreciated, she caught sight of something that made her heart race: the billionaire's money. Left carelessly where no one expected it to disappear, her mind battled between loyalty and survival, fear and love. What would any mother do when faced with losing the only thing that gave her life meaning? That night, with trembling hands and tears she couldn't stop, she made a choice. She took the money. To her, it wasn't theft, it was hope, a chance to save her child. But when the billionaire discovered what she had done, no one could have predicted his reaction. Instead of rage or punishment, his response left everyone speechless and changed both their lives forever. The billionaire was a man known for his sharp mind and even sharper temper. His empire was built on discipline and control, and very few people ever dared to cross him. The mansion staff whispered stories about how one mistake could cost someone their job instantly. That was why the maid's act seemed unthinkable. No one imagined she would risk everything she had, especially for a reason no one yet understood. As the sun rose the next morning, the atmosphere in the mansion shifted. Security was doubled, cameras were checked, and whispers echoed through the long hallways. The missing money wasn't a small amount. It was enough to cause alarm. Everyone braced themselves for an explosion of anger. But the billionaire didn't shout. Instead, he sat quietly in his study, staring out the window, as if lost in thought. His silence was more unsettling than rage. Meanwhile, the maid's world was spinning. With the money clutched tightly, she rushed to the hospital where her daughter lay weak and pale. Doctors had warned her there wasn't much time left. She prayed every step of the way that she hadn't made the wrong choice, that somehow her act of desperation would bring life back to her child. But back at the mansion, the billionaire was preparing something no one saw coming. At the hospital, the maid handed over the bundle of money with shaking fingers. For the first time in weeks, the doctors moved quickly, arranging tests and preparing treatment for her little girl. She sat outside the ward, her heart pounding, wondering if she had just saved her child, or destroyed her own future. Every sound in the hospital hallway made her flinch, terrified that news from the mansion would reach her before her daughter had a chance to breathe freely again. Back in the mansion, the staff exchanged nervous glances. Rumors swirled like wildfire. Some suspected the chauffeur, others blamed a visiting relative, but the billionaire said nothing, only studying each worker with an unreadable expression. His silence was heavier than accusations. Deep down, a few servants began to fear he already knew who was responsible. The conflict grew sharper in the maid's mind. She replayed her choice again and again, torn between guilt and relief. She thought of the billionaire's kindness on certain days, the times he had spoken gently to his employees when no one else of his stature would bother. Yet, she also remembered his reputation, a man who never forgave betrayal. Far away, the billionaire made a discreet call. His voice was calm, almost too calm, as he gave instructions that hinted he was not just investigating the theft, he was planning his own move. And what he intended could shake both of their lives in ways neither could imagine. The maid spent the night at the hospital, watching through the glass as her daughter finally received the treatment she had begged for. Relief flickered in her chest, but it was fragile, shadowed by the fear of what awaited her once the billionaire uncovered the truth. Every vibration of her phone made her hands tremble. Every passing stranger in the corridor felt like a messenger of doom. She knew her act couldn't stay hidden forever. At the mansion, the billionaire's quiet investigation moved forward. He didn't storm through the halls or accuse anyone directly. Instead, he gathered details: who had been near the study, who had acted differently, whose eyes avoided his gaze. He had built empires by seeing what others missed, and this situation was no different. His patience was unnerving, as if he wasn't merely looking for stolen money, but for a deeper truth buried behind it. By the next morning, the maid returned home to grab a few belongings. But when she stepped through the kitchen door, the entire house fell silent. All eyes turned to her. She felt the weight of suspicion pressing down, even before anyone spoke. And then, the billionaire appeared at the doorway, his gaze steady, his expression unreadable, the moment stretched, tense, and unbearable. He finally stepped forward, closing the space between them, and with a voice calm but sharp, he said words that froze her where she stood. The truth was about to surface. The maid froze under his stare, her breath caught in her throat. She expected fury, accusations, maybe even the end of everything she had worked for. But instead, the billionaire's words were startlingly calm. I know where the money went. The room seemed to shift, the staff holding their breath as if waiting for thunder that never came. She felt her knees weaken, knowing the truth was hanging in the air, just inches from being exposed. Before she could gather the courage to answer, the billionaire revealed something that no one had expected. He had already spoken to the hospital. He knew about her daughter, her struggle, and the desperate choice she had made. But instead of condemning her, he asked a single question that pierced her heart. Asterisk, why didn't you come to me? Asterisk, the staff exchanged stunned glances. Whispers filled the edges of the room, but the billionaire silenced them with a glance. His focus remained only on her. For the maid, shame and relief collided. She wanted to explain, but her words faltered. She had believed he would never understand, that wealth like his could never grasp the pain of watching a child suffer. Then, as if to complicate everything further, a call came through to the billionaire's private phone. His face tightened, his calm mask slipping for the first time. The situation was bigger than anyone realized, and the stakes had just risen even higher. The maid's heart pounded as the billionaire ended the mysterious call. The silence stretched, heavy with tension, until he finally spoke. His voice was steady, but it carried a weight that made the entire room lean closer. The money doesn't matter anymore, he said. Asterisk, what matters is the truth. He looked directly at her, and she felt her secret unraveling in front of everyone. With trembling lips, she admitted what she had done, that she had taken the money to save her daughter's life. Her voice cracked, her hands clutching her apron as she begged for forgiveness. Instead of anger, the billionaire surprised everyone by standing in front of her, his expression softening. He revealed the unexpected truth he too had once lost. A child, and the pain had never left him. That was why, when he learned where the money had gone, he chose not to punish her but to help her instead. The mansion gasped in shock, unable to believe the man they knew for his power and ruthlessness was showing such humanity. But just when relief filled her eyes, the billionaire dropped one final twist. The call he had received was from the hospital. The money she brought had covered the first treatment, but now the doctors needed his decision for a much larger expense. The maid stared at him, breathless as he declared that this time, he would pay the price. The story had turned completely, leaving everyone stunned at his final choice. The maid broke down in tears, unable to believe what she was hearing. For weeks she had carried the weight of fear, convinced her desperate choice would end her life as she knew it. Yet here stood the billionaire, not condemning her, but offering the very help she had thought impossible. The staff, who had braced themselves for anger and punishment, now watched a different kind of power unfold, one rooted not in wealth, but in compassion. Days later her daughter's health began to improve. The treatments continued, each step funded by the billionaire, who made it clear that no mother should ever have to choose between survival and honesty. The maid, humbled and deeply grateful, returned to her duties, but with a new sense of dignity. She no longer walked the mansion halls in silence. She walked with the knowledge that her struggle had been seen, and her love as a mother respected. For the billionaire, the experience changed him too. Behind all his fortune and power, he had rediscovered a truth he had nearly forgotten, that real wealth is measured in humanity, not money. The story spread quietly among those who knew, leaving behind a powerful lesson. Sometimes, even in the darkest choices, love can reveal the best in people.